Double Venezuela South. Taka Vinaka levo ni bula Vinaka na sema tiko mai na ka Vinaka ni kua ka vini singa vakarauai mai viti na walu na kaloko na kavi ngosa ga singa varombuka tiko ngoi Hawaii uchingo na tini na mbongi Vinaka vakalevo sara vike mnina sema tiko mai na nonda Veitalanoa ni kua ni takini ni mbulu Vinaka tiko. Thank you so much to many of you who are logging in today. Really appreciate the time that you've put aside to come and listen to our Talanoa session. Ngoe sa vakumureti ka ningona ututi ni bida na singa ni ken maro takitiko na sana vakturanga te levu rasureti tiko mai na veturanga maramambale na ndivo no rangwali tiko mikina en ken mai daka tiko na Veitalanoa tara korombeka na do kai na sonongona na Veiuqeti sartunga ni nonda Veitalanoa se viva kalanganga taki en wakusiv na ngonongo ngon ren das tavati kongo ndoni tingo na matetaka na COVID-19 kadiwa vavini Vinaka sara vakalevo berto na bulangi orto sangai bagai bangana kabina ni kua orto na turang maramangas ni Vuli ni ritu saksi orto turang maramani sana vakturang oti levu orto gas ni Vuli Kei vakai ulutaga tumba kan gas ni Vuli se Vuli na kavina ni stigni kua ia sa me do mengo na tikini aua na nonda me Veitalanoa saranga na ulutaga ni Vuli na vambul searching goberto na sema tiku mai na sau mai na mara mai te levo Wasiti Mbatiwale, Filipe Mbatiwale, ke Chone Mbatiwale. Então, bula Vinaka me nisso sau. O catalã aqui no Mastale, vamos searching e Chapani. Iya, então bula Vinaka Mastale, bula Vinaka Iba Bola Paul, Serra Tambacau, Luciana Wanga.
Tui, gosta na apia que ana van, que usa
vai nivalo, Vinaka vakalevo, vikim dona sema tiku mai, vai Vinaka sartiku vikim dona sema tiku mai, bulu Vinaka blouna, manlevo,
Vinaka, bulu Vinaka.
Iya, vai Vinaka tiku vikim sema tiku mai, iya. Vikim to nga na siya matiko may na Zoom, kaya ngayon daw mute nga naman daw computer, mo na liba-liba, nakabakalevo. Rong pinaka na mundo mo na ita. Iya.
I have to mute.
Iya, nakabakalevo, vikim to na siya matiko may na Zoom, iya, sa tatang mo na tikinangaw na menda na tikabutakin na nonda Veitalanoa na marutak sarva kalebu ni vakayo may na kerker malmalumo yung walayan Hawaii na nonda marama bulang dokai bulang Taukei-Totoka ko na kabinangan sin kuwa o Professor Unaisi Nabobo Bamba kla na maramang go bunga sar weekend sa kila na vikai vakaitabikina na nonda vanua biti vakatanga kina was Pasifika sa katalanga ni nguleta kina na vanua na vese burbura na ulutaga ni Vuli na ulutang sarngango karo na may Veitalanoa kina vakaviokani na sinubinaka ni kuwa nakabalevo Professor una na ngwale mai mo may Talanoa weekend na sigino ko mitik butak nga na nonda Veitalanoa kerombek nga ni univa kumadal tikyo muni na nomuni kor ni vaso kina nomuni susu takemai
Vinaka. Vinaka Vakalevu, Dr. Tarisi Sorovi Vunindilo, thank you. Au kere mo madal taki mo madal tak mandanga bakawalangi vakalekale kana session balete sora era valangi oti aunangai bosa vakabungale oti usanangai tikvu. I'd like to thank Dr. Tarisi Sorovi Vunindilo for the opportunity to be sharing today. The session per se is in Taukei language, but I would punctuate what I say now and again to give a brief summary or a précis of what I've said. This is in lieu of the many of you viewers who are not Taukei, as well as our young children who may be struggling with their own capacities of the Taukei language. So in English, I would say thank you very much, everyone, for making the time to be with me and Dr. Tarisi. And I'd like to thank Dr. Tarisi for thinking about me as a Vasu in Tailevu to be part of this session. And I'm glad I'm featuring last because then the others have started the wisdom sharing. Matabak mbula roya ni bungalei na kemni na kangu mai bungalei. I'm doing dialect now to honor my mom's people. Veitalanoa na ngalo enai au kere mai Hawaii me o ba matala taka bakaleka na kai bimbi baleta na Vuli e na ngui chini chika no ba matala na bong endai baleta ngoi na bakarau tangai veni ngoi na tini na mbaki ni no na Rauluni na vosa vakaviti vatkena nonda I bakarau vanua e na vura tuvako baka malmaleka ve tavale tuibungale ke o reiti ko may nambongan dai ko na reiti ko may nabuno ni nongu dakataka vale era liuliu apa ko na sobale lebri bugale. I wanted to show everyone that in my study you have the baskets of bungale everywhere. Numbul malak na kangu obak nuita ke ni na new chikubat ke keto na Veitalanoa me da basara ni maka Voluna kauna vakatukune o sana kera ni veke mununa kango mai bungale mbak ni usus mai kea mununa boso te kea warai ni tau malaka si warai mbak ni tau matau e voluna i bosa. Thank you everyone. Kemni na turanga na marama mai na vea se vura ni tune in chukumai. Kemni na turanga na marama ni tokoni ke rau chukumai ke marama naita tarisi Dr. Vunindilo. Vinaka vakale usara. Na bongin beka ni kua, via te bunga na taro atarang mai o Dr. Teresi, me pumadalta ki o mandanga vagaleka, beleta ngoka e vagarang bimbi ve kenda na Taukei. Kenda na Taukei nda sota ngavango nda sabi vakilai taki. Ngoka na vagarang bimbi beleta kenda ve wasea, nda via kilasaranga. Straight away we would like to know how connected we are in our relationships. Pena rona undolutin kavitu, ke roa tambaka kinendo na vola ke Professor Upoluvaai na liuliu ni Pacific Theological College, ke na baka bimbita ki na Pacific Totoka na nonda Veiuqeti. Pe wak madalta ki au madanga bagalek berani ke ro toseni na Veitalanoa. Nunggu turang beka, wai siki na bomba Rauluni, mai nakoro turang mai garani mai ngau. Na e wasu o koea e na tauloa i nei rai. Na e vango e au e sinika o mai ngarani e kausar tiku mai na tauloa mai nei rai. Ni na tiko ni na wakarongo chumbeka mai na we kango mai lo mai viti. O e au marama ni ngarani, mai ngau, Rauluni. Ia na tumbungu marama ni na tauloa mai nei rai. Ko e lako mai kina na iada o mai vaenga takatiku na ngonango. Na marama na tinangu ko mai bungalei. Lebu na veise berure era kilatunga ni o na marama ni bungalei mbeleta ngori. Ngori da vanua susukina. So na ngauna dau rendre tiko veia we so na ngauna me dau if I can say that in English. I tread a fine line sometimes to recognize both. But the naman bimbi ve kenda na turang na marama itoke, do bimbi na baloni ve susu. Kaya ondo tuku na tinga kineliu na bungale so sarando tarong ay kimam sen kila ni daba ni ka ni iko marama ni ngau hiyo mai ngau mai lo mai viti marama na itacho kino Dr. Sorovi. Yana nongo susu mai bungale susu ngeu saranga na tumbunga marama tumbungu na tinai tinango ina koro inandaro ko mbeka ko teke vuli ni teke vuli o vuli wa sarchanga itelebu beto tinango ngasti ni vuli keto teke vu nongo klasi 2 keto teke vu mai kasabu tarisi ke menina klei kasabu nangonea in the late 60s. Okay, mami nangonea ke mami sisili nangunu nakake dela ngame no wele wi anreo iyo teke vu mai kasabu sangai ngole bungale ibungale yo sangai toksareani na Valentine Memorial School. Tarisi ever to manai kare motor na karona minitaro
Don Vinaka.
Naka.
Nakavali besar nomu vamadal takna nomu sema ni buvale da marotakina na sema ngole na nomu ni kornivasu. I think for our non-Itoke speakers, just to acknowledge our maternal links, our vasu, which is something that Professor Una is sharing with us today, and where she was raised, and acknowledging her maternal grandmother who raised her. So it's a beautiful, beautiful story that many of us, I think, as you rightly said, Professor Una, that many of us always know that you are from Vungele in Telehu. And we're just so happy today that you've acknowledged your Lomai Viti side, but more so you always maybe do a balancing act of acknowledging acknowledging your Vasu side, your Vungele side, as well as the people of Ngau and Nairai who are listening today will be very proud of your achievements that you have achieved. Vinaka levu and nananda to tarokarua rone va madala takamadanga na nomu tambani wuli nyo sangole na wuli toradaki. So acknowledging Valentine Memorial School. So for our BMS students listening in, shout out to BMS and Delena Vesi. And now back to you, Professor Una, to share a little bit about your postgraduate studies and the studies that you did at university.
Vinaka. Au nanuma ni nanuma le sutarisi na wuli maendeleni vesi. Really, abu taka sarangana vakauqeti ni bula endeleni vesi veikenda na wuli na lotu bula ndendre. Yeah, mani mbiti endeleni vesi a head girl as you probably know. Wala lako sarandona ngona me sa mbiti bunga le mai au mai board tu me davanule head girl au dax ni koribuli. Sabakae bakareita kabe ondeleni vesi sonaka bimbi au nanuma ni taradake kina sonaka and the sininda wasea. Maendeleni vesi bimbi na nonda I was trying to say that at Valentine, vertical connection to God is really first. We don't talk about it, but it's assumed that that is, you have to do that. So if anything I learned from Valentine, I've learned a lot, but it is the vertical connection to God that everybody must do in their quiet time. Otima ondeleni vesi o sa tokiani enai University ni Devani Pacifica at USP. Marota kandina otini matainia kuroi karoni kuroi o sale gold medal na master's degree. We was ni kua na thesis ya le makataki mai ni Silandi. Wawakan di kema saraba ko boleka na kena tawia ira na high education institutions iviti. Na daba tawia bukina, na daba drive takna kena tawia bu research selia na kena vakasama na kena ndingita ki vak matau na tuvatuva ni Vuli terisi ngori na ngudakaba chukuna koroya mani dhuruma ya ndundua kina na vei korivuli lelevu kede viti. I PTC mai virtou na lotu PRS I ndawilevu la koi kornivia na virtou na Vuli nasi na vei kornivuli kede o other ruma Corpus Christi endona ka vaka Bolivia ni dona ka na kena mbimbi me tiko endua na liuliu tarisi me na liuliu ngo kenda na bakabalangi it says any institution, any country, any clan, any village, it's very important to have a leader that has a vision, but the vision, that leader has to inspire a shared vision. Kaital matanga wakabiti, nungu baka duruma na Dios tinkadiwa Dios nga ulutaga kina Dios ulkono na vei korivuli lele bungo ibiti au reida kina o vata ki koe tiko mai na FIT. Eki wuna vei korivuli lele bungo mbaleta endua na turanga semerama a rawani a tatangrataka se raiawa na nona raiawa ka tuvava ka matau mai rawa kina ni wasea na nona raie. It's important for leadership. I'm saying that when I was doing my master's degree, which had gotten a gold medal in those days, one thing I learned besides the degree was that in the development of higher education in Fiji, Tarisi, there is a personality or two or three committed people who inspire a shared vision. This is what I learned from my master's degree. Otia salei dakdaksare ni USP, dakdaka ni USP, baleta ni tosu Vinaka ngona na Vuli, yo wa ovia bakarai taka ngai ke, nindona ka undo dakava ni use ngone alewa mai bungale. Gori endona usenga nindo wase bakawasuma but irina kileo Vinaka mai nungu koro ni basu. Irendo kila ni ngauna kede dakana bakatawase isa lala na valilotu unga indo komita kana nongumbula banaklo
Sandina
ber madani lebul indele vesi baleta na buni ngone kasi sunya ko sindo was bakalebu ndo buni ngone dakaka Lebu na kaya da kaba ngai na ngalu ia na ubi le lebu na boi kwa kila ia bunga le se avanga bua. Ngori na iyo terisi na so on the 31st of December every year when the vanua, when the whole vanua or the whole clan of 7 or 8 villages in Vungale get together to worship God on the 31st of December, it has been a habit of mine when the church is vacated that I go back inside and I say to God simple things like, this year I promised to deliver. Thank you, Father, I delivered this. Please bless the next part of my journey. And I'd like to say that that is what I see missing today. Students don't have a commitment, Teresi, or they do have a commitment, but they lack the understanding that time on earth, time in study, the opportunity to study, this is God-given. And just as the Bible talks about the talents and the need for us to be careful with the talents we are given, I treat this very seriously. And as a young kid, I always say to other children, I have a contract with God. Because often I'm accused of just reading and writing. But reading and writing is the two things, those are the talents God gave to me. So on the 31st of December, wherever I am, I've learned that even if I miss out on every other Sunday, that is the time I tell God in this year, I had done as much as I can, as much as you allow. I went on to do my PhD, Teresi, but I made sure to do something. Dona kandrendre in the Marama, Dona kandrendre in the Marama Indigenous women, and in the late Takataka Dona University Kemni Sakila Teresi Keira na wrong tikmai. Universities are spaces for male and white male, generally. So for a Fijian woman that looks like me and Teresi, we gotta work a lot harder and strategically. And in my own line of work, I've really used a lot of good people who reach out to support us. A lot of you are listening in. Thank you. Bless you. So at USP, I learned very early that you need to understand that this is not going to be an easy journey. O ateki busara wa lecturer mai. E ana botona sarbek ni tikibu sa tostos da sara indona kan bimbi na university okay mami na taka na university na bibo ka buli di bimbi ia esengani kau mai kia na promotion nonta toroda ke Dr. Vunindilo ia iyo kim ndona kaya kwenda ndo singni ndo Veitalanoa ka pakawasma ni lebuna nonda ra turanga marama buku sara ia na radokana kai na turanga na marama na tuida ke na faiwa na idaka di kakana na idaka ni kena vakarotaki na nomu tosodake e leimbeka na nonda do Veitalanoa taka osa kambiti ra saranga Dr. Bundilo kambiti ra saranga na levi da na numa ni rauni ratu na bukea na nungu vakarotaka nungu toso. Wati salah mai na sekolah sibi mai ni siladi. Au satu kisarani na PhD manilai na PhD ngori Teresi you would know ale recognize tak me Amerika sa watu eni ana nongo tos ni Vuli vengu mandanga merano ni taro doktor.
Isa totoka vakauqeti isa. Babi ni Vinaka taka na vekao wasema baleta na Vuli torda ke ngai mure talanga sana ngoni sala ndrakinda kita sena ngoni sala raw na levu na ngauna na bita kina na nomu vale se bitir mbaka na nomi tokani moroni ngoleni na libraries na total nasi ni burubura malaka kina na nomu bantindike wikem ni na bakarong tikum mai so wikem ni na vatatar chumbaka na master's degree na tampaka ya. Say what does the PhD what does it involve as well as the master's research. So I was just trying to summarize what Professor Unai was talking about, that it's not an easy road for many of us, more so for many of us who are indigenous or indigenous women in this case, to be in this space. But I think I just want to acknowledge Professor Una here for setting the pathway, for many of us younger ones coming up. And I'm sure Professor Una and many others who have gone before us is allowing most of us, including me and others coming behind me, to be empowered. We look up at our sisters and our brothers who have taken on that journey in front of us, and just acknowledging this wonderful journey of master's and PhD research. It is exciting. It may sound maybe sound difficult or may sound really abstract to many of you, but the way Professor Un is explaining it, she's explaining it in a way that you'll find trials along the way, but it can be done. Look at Professor Una. Look at where she is right now. Vinaka maramanaita, and namuni yubakarita Vinaka bikema mina marama. Siya talagang ngula da kinwer na ngoni Taukei, rabakarong tikumay na sino Vinaka ni ko. Yeah. Na tarong nga ubi nakatamo si Bernie tarong wala na tarong ni taka ba bakang gas ni Vuli meron ba kana bakarong tumay membaletanga na Vuli ko ni PhD watarong talaga na tarong mo be bunway evi kikaw ng balarua and buku ni kanala ki bakay dorin na research ni PhD rombek nga niyo baka madaltak bek nga bakararong beka birno bakarong tikumay na ulutaga beka wa dingitaka vatakena ngoni salada wa bakamuria and no musanga leki vakauqeti na no munibolo.
Iya, Vinaka Dr. Bunindilo, wala ko na New Zealand aid scholarship, kalunga tamblat nunguleo ni bale bakarorotak naka goendo na kambimbi kibaka turanga olay Vuli na marama na randini bale. Mena kiri na yalona mena bangalalta kemuni beleta na nonguleo ni bale o Professor Mbamba o kilele na Dr. Mbamba rawa na dakadaka rawa na ngumbiumbiu me odakaba na nungu itavi bolei ngaraba na nungu Vuli beleta ni okwe namaka maulako o rautelanga na lubengo o melania beta ngone Vuli talitunga mai New Zealandi. Sa tiko ngoi na foreign affairs viti no ngulu matua kasa liuliu Australia sabato kaya na support if you like Teresa ngai tiko ya ni mai bungalei gororto na marama ni bungalei orto toka USP or na tinango kaniskendrate sa toka ya ni so na veika o sabulida toka by Dr. Evi by Dr. Kanisi o Dr. Mbakalevu sala ko tenia wau wakatotol sara na endua na Veitalanoa ke Rauluni te endua na kai wala nga ubi awasea. Waya uni usingai te kibu nga USP na Dios nga bulu Teresi. Sabi na veikau betanindo bola tungan. Ngu matai nga ngu tripa ula ko mo leki dakaba endua na mbose I Adelaide mai Australia. Nandra bose taki saranga na kambaletir na tokeni vanua ke nodra Vuli. Eu te kibu nga mekia na tinika dio sanga Vulu kabasa te kibu saranga na ke na lauti au na veika so me ona dakava na nongumbula ni Vuli Teresi. Wakai na kiti saranga eu dakava nga indona bakandindi ke leilai na sinu mani solikina veo na scholarship mola ko mola ki bossa na mbosea. O reida ki na indona professor ikia Wira na ngoni Vuli Taukei mana bese burbura. There were Indian students, African students, PhD students. Vuli then my Professor Bob Tisdale na nona bengarabi beira na ngoni Vuli vatakei na nona vakaleleda na yalondra merangarau na taumanda na kambaletira. Wira rakautamata. They are indigenous people from all over the world. Ngone leo ni Nigeria, kwa na dhurbu lako mai Malaysia, din vanua rala ko mai kinam. Sa lesu tale mai USP, working na nongu masters ni nongu banji keba na high education ni viti, sa nanuma na nongu PhD me una lesu tale manda na itik vunika. Me ulei baka rei da sarmanda ser baka sama baka dava na nonda, wasi baka dava na buku, orto na daungoli rato lei daungoli bakadaba na daba enda dakaba ke baka enda labina kata menda bulida bata ka kemdo na reida chumai na nungurumu ertungori na basket ni bungale Ratanga chugai va ke rangai tuira na ve ka ke na imbe me sangani research. Tu ngai da gran basket di bungale. Na kai wakareita ki kenda endua na kautamata. Nguri ele wakabuna mai na wakaburi ba sama via o mena dia sa ulkarwa nungu lako tu ni Australia. Ia ni usala ko nguri New Zealand kalau ngata ni kalau e tuvana na ka au wambauta. Ko saranga na marama ka bola na decolonizing methodology Professor Linda Tuhiwai Smith o ko sanga isolia na university o ko ya menungu ngasini buli na bandua kenda na buli PhD kemni na turanga na marama. Ngoka na ioti ni kuro e rawata indona ngone e na nona la tiko nona ngai ni buli. Teki bume na kalasindua, ni sandole da kaba na PhD saya la ngai kia. Otia sanga isoli tu wiki mami na rank wakai. Okay, ko bula manda o chao le satini, okay mami ya, okay mami tuta, okay mami sanga lecturer, mami sanga senior lecturer, sanga assistant professor, kay associate professor, sanga professor. Iya, me liu mandangai liu na doktor. Ke warai na doktor e warira na dhuru sinirawa. Ia aunga ina numa ni oya umberi ni olevu ile ule tataura o mai bunga lei. Beleta ni ana kai buli dibia umbeta usana numa chiko. E siana chiko ni bunga lei na bunga kaukaua. E na ngauna ni sembera kina na nonra laku mai na kai walai nga bunga lei. E levo na valu lele vai ngata kiki no bunga lei. Aunga ina numa me uda kama mande ndona ka membeletir mandana na kangu. Au sa vakasama me baleta toka na buli ia me le ko to me bunga le sona ka vakabuli gori tarisi na ding wasa kava e vakabuna ndo talanga na turanga ni wala ngi USP dona singa lak mo ko ga kavango ko biao ne yo se ngone sare se sat kun sara ko unaisi ndorla ngunu chimanda betul ngata wa presenta dona seminar dona ngana buli leila ma USP Kasara vea o koia, o iko i vabi chigo iko, na vaba na ioti ni ka iko na via da kava. Mai muri, iko na kila i nandua na ka, na vaba ya. So in a way, I was challenged to think, don't disperse your energy to 1 million things. Maroroya nga vana area ngarava, dobera tongori mena le vakaki no mo PhD. Ina turanga ya, o Howard Ventries, he was the person that set me on the right direction. Sometimes you will need people like Dr. Howard Ventries to readjust your journey. And God used Howard Ventries because Howard is a straight shooter. He talks straight. So he took me to coffee, set me down and said, look, I've seen you speak publicly. You move people, but you need to find out a few areas that you'll specialize in. Dr. Vunindilo, Kunuvango Howard, Nadawe go around the Kawe, Sindran the Kawe, and Dota Lavuraburango, or Casarea Bungalei. You better new guy, Vuli Oklandi, Dr. Vunindilo. Dr. Vunindilo, Bernula, go salate Tauma in a coro, Vakabungale, Vaka can the Keda Naviti. O late Kuna in a coro, New Samaronga, or Lebulis, and get Tokawe on Natukangu, Ikunalako Isabu. Pana tukangu mai sabu na luvena elewa ko talia mai na basket ratiko ngo na lama nongo study vale sangela ko tukangu sabu ko mai sabu kona vakabunga lei ya ko engase veira keda na kumai ne veituranga sangalita tau mai veira to scale indele rakiraki na tukangu mai sabu muli tukuna ngaba subukaro mabuli sana warai ni tiko na vanua nindo kadi nangasi so ngona ndo tiko go sawarai be lima na mbaki nungureba tu sa tu no kwa na tabo mabulide gor sarnga Dr. Vunindilo akiro wa madal sa tun sa rokwa anga itu na tinamo akani so tataw na ba na kambale tibungale sawarai mataka bitoka na community warai sara iko monela tak via wendai moles mai wala tu na kaya walu na kambale tikenda Merani memory merakilan tamate o kenda tungla va mona bleto bungale na buno cuqeni. He challenged me, the old chief challenged me. He redirected my direction. After Howard Ventries told me off for following people everywhere, Howard told me choose 3 or 4, stick by it, publish in it, speak about it, profess in it, pray about it, do everything. In future, somebody will know that you are an expert in 1, 2, or 3. But indigenous knowledge, Unaisi, is something no one can take away from you because you are indigenous to this part of Earth. And, needless to say, Professor Linda Tuhiwai Smith and Professor Graham Smith, they are like family. Those are the what you call the vuvale. And I was doing my PhD. This is my immediate, the minds that shaped my journey. Dr. Namarama na tumbuna Namarama ni Maori, Dr. Evelyn Coxon, Associate Professor Evelyn Coxon, Namarama ni Samoa Melenaite. So that's the story of the PhD. So Keda, then vata taro chikumbeka baletani they tumbu. Dr. Vunindilo, may I just say in English, in case some young people are around. This is a conversation to be held, please, young people. Sometimes in our village meetings, there are a lot of us that can come and sit to explain to you how you get to have a PhD. My own mother's village, when I go, they ask questions like, so what is that? Can you inject somebody because you're a doctor now? I said, no, different. And then I take the time to explain. It's very important for some of us to achieve this because in the future, all the university professors that shape the direction of our country, our region, and our world, they usually have a PhD and more. So we cannot keep saying that we cannot because we are bright people, but we need to do the hard yards. And that is guided learning. I'll speak about that a bit later when Dr. Vunindilo reaches advice on education. So this is what I found with the PhD journey. Maybe we need to talk about it a bit more with our people. It's not hard. Personally, I say to my children, the bachelor's degree is the hardest because my son Junior is doing bachelor's. The postgrad dip and the master's and the PhD, it's God-given. It's a time to be enjoying books. In my case, I thought Dr. Vunindilo, because you will not have another time in your life where you and your God and your books, it is a pleasure to walk with professors who know everything about what you want to do and will stand back. And these are the, what I call culture club. Your PhD is so important because your professors are supposed to set you up. You will get to know so many other people through them. Why is it important for indigenous people and anybody? It's important because we need our own people in places that matter. Without the PhD, and when interviews happen, we can't get our spaces. In education, we say it's important, role modeling is important. When I look at a space and I don't see a woman that looks like me and Dr. Vunindilo, I think automatically, maybe it's not a space I deal in. Friends across the globe listening in today, this should be a conversation to be had, like Dr. Vunindilo, thank you so much. It allows us to talk generally about that pathway. Maybe I'll stop for a while, Dr. Vunindilo.
So inspiring. And I think this is always a question that a lot of our people ask. And sometimes they don't know who to ask and also how to ask. And so this kind of platforms is really a platform to, how can I say, maybe demystify, if I can use that word, or, and also to simplify what a master's program looks like, what a PhD program looks like. Professor Una for sharing it with us that, yes, doing a master's and doing a PhD, it's fun. It's fun. And if I can share a quick story of my experience at the University of Auckland, I used to remember my students always ask me, are you really doing your PhD? And I said, yes. And they say, oh, you don't look stressed. And I said, why should I look stressed when I'm enjoying what I'm doing? And so that's something I want to share, that if you are enjoying the research you're doing and you know it's important to you and you have the passion to do it, and you find the niche doing that research and you're going to contribute back to your people, then it is a calling. Yeah, it is a calling. And I think in a way it's, for me personally, I found it really, really inspiring because I got to be with people that I often just read books written by them.
Yes.
Yeah. Ona lá ko vena sona bose se sombe kana konferendi ona le ndambi tuwango sa ndambi tartu sa mwendua kwa wili kuchukana na ibola na sinkandua. Sometimes when that happens to me, I'm like pinching myself and thinking, oh my goodness, I was just reading his book and he's sitting right next to me. And so, so those are some moments, that you can embrace. Those are the moments that you can celebrate, that you are in that space in a given time in your life, that you can be able to make a difference. So one and now, Vinaka vakalevu, Professor Una, for allowing us to understand your journey. Umanangautali takana nomu listali sabu, nomu listali berto ibungalei, mola kita tau mai berto. And I think that's a really, really empowering path that we all should follow. We can manangani Taukei, noda listali vanua, dalivari takveirang kona kainda barudakab. Balatana tamani vosin viva kalunga tataki, erna suleme weekend. I Vinaka vakalevu. Dia na taravau vinakatanga mo tarong membaletana no mo ni dakaka bangas ni Vuli sombara bambula chumai maramanita no ve korni Vuli mbako ni angas ni Vuli kina bambula chubengo ni Vuli Vinaka vikim ni tsara na ngoni Vuli Professor Una nakvalevu na varong tikumai ramana ni vamadataka nakabe vakauqeti kemuni moni vamuria na ngoni sala mola kingas ni Vuli.
Oh, Vinaka. Na tinango na marami tinango o angasi ni Vuli tarisi. Iyo. Tinango angasi ni Vuli orto telngano ngune orto nei Naomi tuinakel orto angasi ni Vuli. War na marami ni bungale tarisi au sin kala sa kelati se senga kemni na varong. Mai bungale na elewa ndot kuni bango ikuna elewa na tangani bubale. Ni warai na kakani mai bungale ni warai na kakani lamani bale ndot kuni bango. What I'm trying to say here is the example that I saw from my aunties who were nurses who traveled the world. They were just not local. My own mother was a teacher. So initially, Dr. Bunindilo, I wanted to be a nurse because one of my teachers in the university said, Unaisi, you have the character of a really good health person. I'm afraid that didn't come through. Mr. Blakelock wanted me to be a lawyer because I did well in history. But at the end of the day, I was going for a bank interview in the old NBF. Because, in those days, the teachers in Fiji, when I was graduating, the market had become flooded. And I don't know if you young people know, but there was a whole year where the teachers were not employed. So a few of us, the government said, those of you who want to be teachers, you can volunteer. There was only 3 of us, I think, that volunteered to work for free in one whole year. And I walked up and it was going to Marella and then the PS education, I'll remember his name. He became a furniture salesperson later. He owned a business. He told me, you're going to Kandavu or you going to QVS? Which one? Dr. Vunindilo, I could have gone to Kandavu and maybe the story would have been different. Atangi sara na tinango ni sara ma dine o sama tangay Kandavu. Gait kuno tinango albinak sara, ungay ngay tayliwe, meron kito mas ko bigani. But nindangwan elewa. Mani isebu kina ningwan elewa mo leki ngasinibuli na Queen Victoria School. Yeah, I was the first young woman, not married. Queen Victoria does not take women. Usually you're a spouse of a man before you go there. So in 1986, I became the first young Fijian woman to teach in that school. I enjoyed it immensely. It is such a blessing to teach in Queen Victoria. And I think it was a blessing. And kemenina bororong tikumai wa bomadal takchunga. New may say when you can angonele or more lucky we were Bolivian and on record willing to rang. Gori and doing back my experience, Dr. Teresa, I was singing with Lava. Baleta na nongui liuliu o ratumanasa seni loli. Kila, kanta kilanga iso na turang raturang ini bubai kanta talanga indan raturang. O koya au sakanga kwango sa turang nga. Na nona veitumberu veki mamina ngasini bulingone. Na nona ngarau na me Vinaka na nonda vakavaka bago sibini usingali tekibu. Na mbaki mbeka ya ndo seranga na pasi Vinaka orto na nongu form 6. Ele borasa mani india tungo roto tu sabe seni loli lebu na daurabo rabuli mai na ngauna ya rasa tuabo kitungo na base vit base ebrabura. They've done very well. From Queen Victoria School, let me just say quickly, I went to Suva Grammar School because I needed to come and look after my daughter, Melania, who was getting prepared to be birthed, and came to Suva, and then I went to Lothalla Bay. But the first year at Queen Victoria School, let me tell you, it was a year of what we call volunteer. So from the January to December, we did not get a pay. What we got from Queen Victoria was free food, free house, free water, free electricity. At the end of the year, the government decided, Ratumara, that all the volunteers, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 of us, that we get full pay for the whole year. So my first year became my richest year. I don't think any other year in my life has been as rich as that. So God is good. But you know, Dr. Vunindilo, you talked about passion, eh? Yes. When I went to Queen Victoria, I was not looking for money. I was just wanting to teach because I read a lot and I'm an English teacher and a geography teacher. I wanted to teach. And that's what we were prepared at USB to do. So going to Queen Victoria, a lot of my classmates went to the bank. They did very well too. But I made sure that my mother was happy, yeah, because she needed to be happy. Because I forgot to say, I was interviewed at the bank and I wanted to go and do, what was it called, a loans officer at the old NBF. She was not happy. So I went to FBC and met my uncle Siruanganinkalo and told me, Bungana, warin matare dugdor kubungaleking kay arut kiro kay tadimo Luisa. So I think in your life, if you're a young person, there are good people. I believe they are sent your way to refocus your direction. It definitely shaped my way. Couple of people who I met, like Uncle Wanganikalu. I just finished my interview to be an announcer. I believe I have a good radio voice. Almalaksar, turmangun tira o kelas nga sa baro telof tekno. Abungan saraw tiyaw na tadi mo Luisa. Oi ko mamangas ni buli. Oi ko bakaruta ki mangas ni buli. Mo nanggay mo mangas ni buli. Ki mam keda na weka mo kilani ko nangas ni buli. Guy, bitale oray na isaw. So good advice, ladies and gentlemen. Kemni na tumutubo ni barong chikumay. So nanguna buat talangan non remasumbek ng kasi Dr. Vunindilo.
Dina saranga.
Iya. Kwembe kaya o sa chigo nga Lothalla Beach, Lothalla Bay, sa kadibi may tinikando ng gasibuli meralay tekibuna na koribuli-buli ng gasibuli liu na gasibuli in Fiji College of Advanced Education, but it's alang may Australia. Maninding itakyo yaw nlewe nale tinikando ibiti mekito sakao mekito le tekibuna na college ya. From there, I moved to USB. Vinaka, Dr. Vunindilo, welcoming those of you who are tuning in. I'm speaking in Taukei, Dr. Vunindilo.
Yeah, isa. Vinaka vakalevu. Naka vakalev sar na sema tiko mai bikim ni nagay duru chunga mengo. Ngwal chunga ko na Veitalanoa. Baleta ni ralevu chunga na bulangi. Ra duru tal chunga mengo. Dona lau le wikim ni mbeka na sema chukuma ni sianga chukni reida. Dona taman lalale vortoduru chukuma na Zoom. Era turanga marama ngone Vuli ngas ni Vuli tiko na Fiji National University. Era leo ni takadaka ni Professor Una Nabobo Mbamba. Isto era Vulangi tiko. Karena bi basta kitiko nga and basta bakit Taukei karena dawir tercungana basta nga bakababalangi me sema vata Keda mera talanga nira marota talanga wirana warong tiko. So we'll be using both languages, the English language and the Taukei language, so that it benefits both of our audiences that are here. So maybe I'll take this time to thank more than close to 200 devices now logging in live from all over the world. Vinaka bakalevu. Those of you from the Middle East, Vinaka bakalevu na sema tikumai, from England, from the USA, from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and also in Fiji, really acknowledging everyone for coming to this classroom and listening to our story. Vavini Vinaka sarkin bakalevu. Vikimni kersara no muni ngole mai. Meta may rongoda na Veitalanoa. Ni noda bulanya na signi ko Professor Una Nabobo Mbamba. Lubu Keda wakata kay songora bakambulu chikumai. Most of you are students. Vinaka bakalevu kimni keda na ngone Vuli ni vekor ni Vuli me QBS. Nimbula Vinaka. Nakabalevu na sema tikumai. And another Veitalanoa ngona na vatavata. Ni viva kalangangataki and viva say kina elevu na kanda na Vuli de kina na veka vakavuli wakatalanga kina veka nimbula raramba Vinaka bakalevu na taronga tarava na tao ni asaba madalbalele mikin memberleto ng bula may bungalei utalitak sarva kalevu na nomuni sema tiko na nomuni kornivasu rababi ni Vinaka tikumengo ira na sema tikumai vera na sema tiko bakan rai bungalei salah ketukang ko nalabiling verto na sema tikumengo Vinaka bakalevu bungalei. And I think we also like to acknowledge the fact that Professor Una Nabobo Mbamba, I think, is the first Fijian Taukei to have the position of a professor in the university. So that's something for all of us to celebrate, all of us here in Fiji and those of us connecting in from overseas. I think it's time that we need to celebrate our journey. And I hope to invite many more individuals down the path. We'll be celebrating the 14 provinces throughout the year. So we're so happy that this month is dedicated to the province of Taukei. So the next question is, Professor Una, is just to reflect back on your life growing up in Bungalei, Vertona Nomuni Mbu, na maramati na muni pero ni wasya nga may so nakaw ni nanuma me bakambya kana kaka na nanraki kena nambula ni Veiuqeti membaliti Bungalei nakabali.
Vinaka, Dr. Vunindilo, friends who are non-Taukei speakers, I'm going to talk about life in Bungalei, where I grew up. I'm looking at those of you who are non-English speakers. This is the account where I talk about my mother's people. In Taukei custom, the vasu is very important. First, Dr. Vunindilo, bekemani na wekanda o tali takanin do chico kemdo in the Middle East, do bula Vinaka, kemani mena vese burabura. Nambula Bungalei in the 1960s. Waya umbaleta ni awasusunya unambungu na tinangu na tamangu ro ngole tunga na vanua kasi Vuli Kei no tamangu o tinangu ngole tu o tamangu vatke to na tadingu kita ulewe ba ya Bungalei nambula vatke mbungu bango na endona ka urei da na marama nambungu mleto koya ni marama ni Bungalei na tite en bimbi. Senga ni randa wara kana marama ni Bungalei mera tite na tangane senga ni bakaraw baka tailebu ya senga ni bakaraw baka Bungalei na Bungalei nambungu mleta nangana nanga orto nangane na orto liutak na koro koya mleta ni alewa koya na ni tite tuvatuva na size ni tite ke ngane na mleta na marama ni Bungalei marama Taukei Wira na endo tukuni na linga andra na marama gori na linga ni mangiti may bungale iyo au waray takati ko ni nona soba orto na soba na nangu basura sa chihuahua kichangango iyo duaya Dr. Vunindilo na teitei eu itareia o ya ambaleta Veitalanoa le lago ni siladi ko mandanga ke lago mengo domain no guvale ruet ngoi domain eu endaingo au ereda chico na bleta na ubi santo don mekeli ke no veu biti ko ngoi tumbango tiktal nga melo toka o arak chi master Moses me mekeli keli okay la kame no guvale ko san kilasar nga ngona vale le bunga le bleta rando ngande me na kagu bunga le irebere na tete I'm trying to say growing up in Vungale in the 60s, you really grow up with nature because Vungale is forested. So you feed from the forest, from the rivers, but you also will be belted if you harvest things which were not ready for eating. Dona bakarau bimbia, wuli da may Vungale, ninda sa durumatu na lamani bekau. I'll talk about that a bit later about my grandmother and the forest. Dr. Vunindilo may bungale na marama ni rabaro duri bekau belet ni kito marama yang lelebu ngai ululu Vinaka bango bate kendaru orai ni ki dur tunelen bungale bango elam ni bekau orai but ini kai wuli there when you go into the forest you have the oils in it, your hair is always covered. I didn't quite understand that. It's not covered from the village. You get it covered before you leave the village to go to your gardens. Women do not walk the forest with their hairs uncovered. Later, I found out that this is because of protection, because the forest is cold. So while walking with nature, eating from nature, in Bungale in those days, perhaps you'd see chicken and meat in the days like Christmas and maybe on the odd time like singanimate. Ori Dr. Vunindilo na kakan me Bungale kimem do be walitaka yo na kimem do tuko na dam dokan enai every day ya na ruru So those of us from Bungale, that's our kind of our lingo. What are you eating today? Every day. And that means nalo leaves. So those of us, so we grow up on a very, very, it's nalo, ota, lalambe, kaini udiwaini waisere, na donakana ubungale no so too. The place is so too because you have the river, but you also have the sea. So we go to the river and the forest to hunt for prawns, but we also go to the sea. So in a way, your education in Vungale, Dr. Teresi, begins with a forest environment. There's a very strong emphasis on making sure you don't harvest everything. It's not for you. It's not for you only. I got belted one time because my grandmother found we dug every yam out of the chivoli plant. I've got chivoli plants outside my house too. You are not meant senindondono menda kelikeli menda sakelia kevetunaka dondono me maroroi blet endota lela kumainge kelia na kenovo iku kelia nganaka vakarauti kemundo. Some of those sustainable values we learned very early in Vungale. Secondly, dona kambimbi na veiuqeti. I saw my grandmother koe matana taka sarangaya na veiuqeti. I No, I never heard her give me a lecture on Veiuqeti or building good relationships, but I saw my grandmother really live it. For example, ni sa matua na nona ubi, sana maroi sa ngambele na luwen tangane tik may bisay na liuliu ni koro na ngona murito nungune yo nungumomo kaya toko may bisay ni Dabugana ubi bungale kausare visese ayo sando lebatok so nangona. But you know the relationships that we keep is you know like I also see Ferril and Feroz doing that. I think it's across the nations. We build our relationships, we share food, we honor people, we stop. The thing sa nangona mandaraw we recognize people and what they are doing. our relatives. Dona vewe kaning bimbi bungale ingona rutona we kangu me we nimbuka we tukuna madanga as an example, eh?
Yes.
Au niko ndo watch bechivia we so ne bakara ore de chuk me bungale. Merendo sabakara vi balili e chuk we me we nimbuka. Then I stop and say, listen, those people, they are our closest relatives. There is a reason. Ortona nondo to itambani. Ortona nondo to naita. Oreni nondo to meda. So when I stand up now in the church in Vuli, I say, if you are still young, find your spouse that way. Wainibuka River is the richest river in the country. So wareida mai veitumbungu na nona maroroya na kena do baleta ngwana ni ruto ultau na nona taka na marama ni bungali na ngauneliu nando vakalasa takiri na turang ni wainibuka. Na veinga na kena kimami sota kimami na katu kimsara ni dani si mandanga. Ito Commissioner of Police enai na kangu elevo na ngone na ngoni ko ersa sinikila tungo ersinikila ni obungale na buno veitokoni very closely to is wainibuka esingni veimevaki esenga Keda and the Veiuqeti boleka kwengo rigondo to maybe kadi vichukina naita se nuku kambani Teresi, so I probably limit myself to learning by doing. The importance of nature, as I saw my people in Vuli looked after nature, and also the way they built relationships in the past. And then when I came to USP in what year was that? It became a decade of education, sustainable development. I thought, wow, my grandmother was alive. She'd probably swear, Vuli swear, because she didn't like me always coming home to say, "Bo, we'll either mango make ya." When actually learning in the clan is really about making sure that nature is sustained. There is really no two curriculum. It's really about on the maroro and on the veitokoni, on the maroro and on the veitokoni when we kambula, non-human things. Today, Teresi, I hear that is called post-human framing. We call it living well. I stop there for your next question. Vinaka.
Totoka vakauqeti. So why we not start to become nina sema tiko mai. So there's a few people who just joined. Vinaka vakalevu. Become nina ngwali mai mandami Veitalanoa vata. Damai rong Veitalanoa. The Vavini Vinaka na Veiuqeti ko Professor Una was settled to na non susu takimai. Ni semana lolai. Bula so acknowledging Professor Una's upbringing, particularly from Vuli, and acknowledging the connection of culture and nature, that symbiotic relationship. And it's really amazing that Professor Una was able to include that as part of her PhD research and has written a lot of books and articles, which many of us, I know many of us are listening right now, have used her books and her articles as references in many of our work. I'm one of them, and I just want to acknowledge you, Professor Una, particularly with the Fijian vanua research framework, which is a wonderful framework that we here in Fiji are very proud of. Knowing that our Polynesian cousins have created their own research framework, particularly Aotearoa, so the Maori research framework, or Tonga, Samoa, as well as the Cook Islands, and even Hawaii. Now I've seen some of the indigenous research frameworks, but then I'm always proud to say, hey, we also have Fijian research framework, and there's many others I know who will be encouraged to follow your footsteps, Professor Una, in creating these research frameworks that adds to the discussion, in research spaces, as well as education and academic spaces. So, Vinaka vakalevu, Professor Una, for breaking the ceiling for that part of publishing. And I think I really want to acknowledge that. And so many of us are so inspired by your work, and also acknowledging your vasu. the people of Vungale. So the Vungale people who are listening in, Vinaka bakaleu sara na nomni sema tiko mai kua. So coming to the second last question that I asked Professor Unaisi Nabobo today is looking at advice. Na keni matai na nomni vakasala ver na ngwane rabieto soitiko na non rabuli ena vuli torodake. So for those of young ones wanting to pursue tertiary studies, whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, what would be your advice, Professor Una?
Vinaka, Dr. Vunindilo. When I answer the last question, I'll talk about the vision of the leader. But I think just generally before I tune into Fijian, if I had to give advice, I would say, you never go wrong. My own mother gave up a lot of things just to send me to school, you know, money. A lot of our relatives from other races, they do a lot of sacrifice. School is major, and higher education is so crucial nowadays. I'm asking to speak Fijian because there are people listening in, waiting for me to do the Taukei, and Dr. Vunindilo can summarize later. Kimini na kangu o vieta tau naka bibi na vuli au na numa o kerkere ni una vosa na oti ni taro au na Vinaka me bolei remande liuliu liuliu ni vuvale liuliu ni veitokoni liuliu ni vematanggali toka koro sa kenango nango au na numa baleta na new normal nango sabe bosa kita kina new normal ngo ka sa oti vida lima mbeka na bula se ono na ona na matawa no ya una buno sara on dabichu kina go bi babuli ditigen kina sa vaya sa $7 tiko na university $7 chukuna kurvuli na ve sai burabure vatalanga o kerkere Dr. Vunindilo o kenda ni Taukei ona kere ande rauni na tuvatuva mandai. Leaders must inspire now a shared vision about how education must go. Nanuma ni tiko na Council of Chiefs na vanua tiko ira na liuliu ni marama tiko. I think every family must ensure ni na higher education is a must. Now, I say that because just about everybody has a first degree. It don't matter anymore. It's like compulsory now. Yeah, namatay ni koroi siya ni rautaya. Namatay ni koroi kasi ngay taravalenga. Nangaw na may muri, sa Vinaka mo nangawir ng kasibuli, merba masters, nakarua katuli kuroi. Yeah, na kenang bimbi me sat, okeretika ni na nonda vanua, kemni na kangu, ni basota, ke rong koko tuyani, oyaw, sa masula katunga vesinga, ni na yado indo nangaw na kenda na Taukei, kenda na viti, irna kanda na India, they are doing it already. It's part of their Bible. Yeah, because they have the Saraswati and other religious texts that honor knowledge. Okay, we must learn from others. Na higher education, mena tuvatuva kataki. Dr. Vunindilo, ay matai, kenda na liuliu ni veiuvale, kenda na mendana tobalea, mendana vakatututaka, mentuvani vakamatau na tuvatuva ni vuli. Ponindo ametiko wana mbese alvinaksara. Oya usaules mai bungalei. O sakerkere vida na vuli lelebu edakatungo era ni kau na ve korkoro. Ia feniu kita usako tatungo ina tasiri na lakwai na ve vanua. Dr. Teresi na higher education na kenang bimbi mbaleto kenda nda reida tok na buruburengo na veiuliu taki na veitokoni na kede gori na tamata na marama ena tiko bua na karua katolu kavani kuroi a PhD oti asanga tosto soida kena rank ia kesenga na kenang bimbi o kerker menda na tuvana sarva matao kesenga o kenda sa tukuna chigo ni it's okay not to be engaged. It's okay na kunin da veiuliu taki memory but na veiuliu taki memory na bura Vinaka ngo ina Vinaka na tamate qualified ken balbale au kerker jigo yaw may bungale o sale sumay o yaw wat ke kambani me buko police commissioner o tunravu uro Kemuni kena ngana turai no ini buka uro. Eu bango ai naita. Wata pokenta tu me satu Veitalanoa takamanda sakwa manda na soli kango soli kaya. Kita kana soli me satara manda ngana computer spaces in a veikoro. Ke warai na vibu vale kede menda soli me voli na laptop, voli na wifi, me Rauluni me takavata ke Vodafone because in the new normal Wirnangone, gokana kai na Vinaka ena nonda Vuli Dr. Vunindilo, Ya kin karua sa chiko na technology, sa ngai chiko na tuvana. Ke Vinaka e chini na ngoni bungale merto na lelima meloya, lelima merto na takatak na university, e tuvaningo, e ore ni takatatunga mengayado, senga. And na tuvatuva na Veiuqeti, meroni maroroi na ilabani buvale, we invest in these things. This is what all other people that live in the world do. There's no major, it's not a big thing. It's not Einstein. It's really very basic. Na space na nona nangone, na space ni vulile soni, na nona baka ni malaka nangone. May bungalim man daw do sabos vida na vuli may kya utukuna. Ako tanro na kana noodle chiko. Soli nga na ota, soli na ura ni bungale bulambulaya. So Dr. Teresi, the vision from the leaders, maroro ina resources for higher education, but ke sengani na tuvani and a senganiado, baleto Keda and the tomatam bula and bula vatava community. Unanu mangore chikina nanda kaukawa. Sa tutuvala kasaranga, may kandavu, may bambe aketo vinakatango, the tuvana. Ochi mengai baka muri sar na kena bulia me do sar kene veado me muri and na marutaka ni tiko eso na Veiuqeti they can inspire a shared vision of success. Higher education, Dr. Vunindilo, is about that. Not everybody can do well in higher education because not everybody has a vision of success.
Saranga Vinaka Taukei-Totoka vakauqeti na nomobasi ni vakandre ngol searchingan gor na Veiuqeti na veikor. So really wonderful challenge. I think if I can translate it the best way in English, vera na barong tikumai na ken na nonda bolei, na nonda bolei, me visau na nonda rai. Ni reda na vuli na kabimbio ni pamadaltak mea na tuvatuva kai na kena baka na strategic planning na nonda veikor saranga totokan Dina na bimbulia ni tu saranga bibira na koro pakatalanga kinoira na tiko na nonda velo ni vale bira na nonda liuliu ni vale bira baka na turanga tama kena maramatina na kasaranga go me vivo sakitaki e non dolo mani balme pakasava madal tak chiko professor una biran na wekando na wasu sa tik sartungani non rambula e sakavo sartunga e tik sinkavo sa tik tu non rambula ke sudumai o tatavat kinana e satu na karu sama ptakrat Keda to na Taukei to likinda galatiko nangona to sang kai cuqeni to sang to balik timunsal sang baka mele buna kabu do rumaia sa tungo erna ibarita ki Vinaka menta Vuli mekina kwenta vakauqeti cuqeni ni ko. So a lovely encouragement from Professor Una today, especially to our indigenous Taukei families, providing the challenge for planning of education, I think on all levels, planning it from home. Once it starts from home, everything else will go on a straight path from there. Vinaka bakalibsar na vibakalongangatan. Na tarong taraba kwa yutu titikini bikandaru vitalo takatikini po na ibakan renga ni kena marroi na nonda itovo utalitaka na mo sia chumaya Professor Una na mo relisuba na tukutuku makao bakavite na traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge. Usamay umana na vikabangor metikini no muni bolbol kena no muni bandindiki. Ando man na muni bakamalikani bakandre Veira na bakarong tumeni.
Vinaka, Dr. Vunindilo, and thank you for your own part too in taking that up. Ladies and gentlemen, before I speak Fijian, 2022 to 2032, UNESCO has designated that decade as the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. Now, we all know that we cannot talk Indigenous languages survival. In Fiji, it's Itoke, Rotuma, Urdu, and the local Hindi, Fiji Hindi. We cannot talk about that without a vision. I would now speak to the Itoke because the conversation is on the Itoke language. In the Hindi language, I know we have the Arya Samajis, they are doing good work. Professor Subramani is leading that work. We also have the center in the West, the Girimet centers, both the local one and the international one. And also the Indian Embassy, I want to recognize the good work they're doing to support Hindi language. For example, Subhashni has been sent to do a PhD in Hindi by the Indian Embassy. When we talk about the Fijian language, we don't have an embassy. We don't have the council, the Girimet Council, because they have good money and they support very good work. And I've been very close to that one. It's very motivational just to learn from people around us. So, okay, Rea, I'm asking permission to speak Fijian now and to actually say what I think has to be done if we are to remain a people years from now. And if I sound rather disruptive, I ask to be forgiven. This is what I think about Fijian language, because it is going to be a dying language because it's a language of a minority group. The Itoke, in terms of world standards, they are a minority group because there's only 800,000 or 500,000 of us. It belongs to the language grouping we call in UNESCO as needing to worry about. Needing to worry about. Out of the 6,000 or 7,000 languages in the world, 1,005 sit in the Pacific. All these Pacific languages belong to small groups of people, right? So this is why it's very important to safeguard it. Musana bosa mandani vakauqeti ona kerea me una wasia sranga naka masulaka na tarongo o kerea me na vingomi e rauninda na Veitalanoa takayani. Ona numa Dr. Vunindilo, the question is, how do we keep our language, because language carries custom and language is the fabric of the person's identity. It captures who we are. It captures the meanings and nuances of life. Number one, I think we need leaders to get together and try to have a vision. And I'm thinking of the Itoke Trust Board, because we don't have the Girimet Council. We can ask them to help us to to promote the indigenous language. We can also ask the Muslim League because they have international collections. So we can ask all the people around us doing good work in language to what do we do with our own, because we are a minority group in the world. So number one, we need a group of leaders that care. Number two, they need to have a vision, and that vision needs to be inspirational so that people will have a buy-in. I'm looking at the Itoke Trust Fund Board, for example. I hope that they can have that. It kind of have to stand outside of government, but also part of government, that body. What do I want? In order for us, ausana numa kemanina turang na marama ni kuota linda kay Veitalanoa na kena bimbi na kena maruroi menda sa Veitalanoa ni bimbi o koya ena maruroi o koya ia una numa menda Veitalanoa kenda na ka me toso taki tiko nga na kena maruroi na kena pakanga taki Vinaka na kena dindui una numa mendua manda na cultural council wala tani sasya na chiefly council around indo na cultural council. Una numa na maruroi may na ITTFB. Yan a decade sarangago ni tekibuna, it begins in 2022. I think by the end of this year, we should have at least have a 2-day conference just to talk about this topic, Dr. Vunindilo, because the world is dedicated 10 years to it. But we don't arrive on the 10 year in 2022 without a plan. I'm really big on that. But it will not be, it won't inspire anybody. So one, thank you for those comments coming through. The decade, I thought we should have a cultural council. I know we have the government one, but we should also have the Girmit Council. Is not a government council. You know, we can learn from our brothers and sisters. I'm very close to the Arya Samaj body. They're going to do a big caregiving facility in Suva. We planned that over the years. Yeah. And at FNU, we can deliver that course all over Fiji. It's only 2,000. It's not much. It will begin in Thailand. Anyway, back to the language, Dr. Vunindilo. I envisage and I pray for a cultural council where some of us scholars and those of us, those leaders that inspire vision, we can get together to plan the decade. If we don't do it now, because the world is funding it and the world is wanting it done, you know, we've just had a meeting. Dr. Vunindilo, thank you for your contribution. I was a silent listener. SPC, UNESCO, yeah, our own vice chancellor at FNU sa the decade more. So I'm tuning in, Dr. Vunindilo, and listening to what we are going to do. In the decade, the Cultural Council around Tuvana is on initiatives and programs. And we should have a 2-day meeting this year, a 3-day meeting. I'm thinking the ITTFB can lead it, where we discuss a roadmap of what to do in the decade. We don't arrive in the decade and do the map. We do it now. Yeah. So we do that. So that's my suggestion. I could do a paper perhaps and do this more. So that when we arrive 2022, we already have a roadmap to support Indigenous language. But when we do the Indigenous language, our heritages, our oral history, the research, the whole thing is tied together. Yeah, na Fiji National University, the university I really like is the Uni-Fiji. Right now they are advertising for a director. It's the only Itoke center in the country. And this is why I really think the Arya Samaj people are really, I mean, they recognize that before anybody else. But I would love the Fiji National University to have a center of excellence. I've written about this already, by the way. Mendona Center of Excellence, the next decade. UNESCO, Gokan na tuvatuva una keremo madalta mandayani. Ni the tosa na bosse na tolu na singa na bakingo, the Veitalanoa na initiatives and programs for the decade. Ona kerea, imbimbi mernatiko is on the turang na the marama, bimbi talga met the tiko, there is you can do na vakauqeti na the tiko to na craftsman, my navi name. Oti Taukei-Totoka ya na rua tolu na singa mendogay vatavata ni na 2022 sara wochi keda na lalango ni Vuli FNU kwarta kabatungo na ka or to na PhD in this area san ready sara tunga for that center of excellence. Iya berea 2022 meteki busara nga sa na declaration. Do na declaration. The declaration ya menangay vakavata kina na kain bibi mendra maroya. Me tupani baya me ausini Vinaka me otinga vango di roto kere me so do me ke tuman diskuna pak o so restaurant malakat na tangaliwan o ker we kemni na kanda de tupana na kai sele weekend na klo and then masulaka and then tupana and then rai and then masulaka me lak me weekend na rai me then tupana me roni bula na kango me to koi na yung bula au na no na declaration Dr. Vunindilo kendo to na Vuli running to draft tak rangay lawa or to na member to draft ako kendo to baleta kendo to sa ka wat keir na veitokoni vanua na via sai burabura sa sandaray na kenavaka na ker talanga kona declaration ya me taura ke de saranga na kake de me maruroi me nangay kena usu tu tokani na vosa vakauqeti ona kerea. While we are doing this, the other language groups must also share with us what they plan to do. But we, because this is the decade of indigenous languages, we must try to get help from them. Like Vidya Singh, for example, area Samaje. Vinaka na nonroto the kavatoka sonaka around in the bulida. After that, I think Dr. Teresi, so we've got the 3-day planner. We planned the initiatives, the program. We've got the declaration. That's a legal document where we agree with government and the Cultural Council that this is going to do this work. It's going to be funded X, Y, and Z. We should have some goals for the decade, achievable goals. Maroi was Taukei-Totoka, nada sa vakauqeti tu, me vato kaya. Kerikarua, ni sa na goals. Let's say we have 10 goals or 14 goals because there are 14 provinces. Okay, the word the levi the tua. Menda tiko Vinaka, menda to sa nangaraw na toka me woti na decade me sa watch me sa tu na kiana wotukana. And duaya the Center of Excellence in the Fiji National University that will look after traditional knowledges, heritages, and cultures, and indigenous language. That can also mean that the rotuma, what ke rotona, the other languages of our country can be bridged over there as well, together with Professor Subramani's help. Because Subramani is already doing good work in that area. So, okay, wrote the Tokomandekia, but Dr. Bunindilo, can I vakandre ni maroin on the vosa, bleto kendaru sambo wabokita no buruburango. Sayalinga na vosa, sa lala serangana burubur. Tanda na na ikabugo meron sanang ngole mai belet sa lala na itakalingo. Ano kinutukod ko muli. Sarangay namin ng Gyo, bleto kento don meto ngoli tiko sawaray ng ngoli. Sa tuwaray kilati tasawa. Inda ba katawanan tiko nung burbura, inda ba katawanan tiko nung lolo nung veikau, sinindu ay nalakutumay baka sosame may baka liya iso naka. Inda sa lala nga, sa sing ninda tuvatuva, sa sininda masala na kain bimbi, o marotak ni tiko bulo manulevu, deroni oron le repeatak na kango bulo manulevu dotal non tutumbose, emos chale bulo Vinaka, ni gori na kauna numa, me kakunitaka me kangani. It's not to happen. We are not to look after our language just like an incidental. No, it has to be part of a council, a cultural council that is not government, that the people themselves care so much about, like the Girimit Council. That's not a government council. Why can't we learn from other people around us? They have so much lessons to tell us. We can contribute $1,000 each, all of us that have money, that have a job. It can come to 1 million easily. We can start something, but we need to want this first. We need to want something. We need to want to survive this. It is called survivance. Kerkere sa wasa chuqeni bombalavu, kemni na bagarong tikumai sa doka bagalevu na nomuni bagarong tikumai ni bongien dai na bongien dai bagaruai. Talita ka chiko ni Rauluni toso chiko Dr. Bunindilo sa usuleta le ni veke muni na ngaunango moni na takaba na muni takadak Vinaka.
Sa Totoka, Vinaka bagalevu sara na wasa di vakandre weekend na Vinaka ni kuwa levu sara na ulutaga Vinaka ni wasea. So definitely, the importance of planning and visioning. And also for those of you who are listening in, I was part of the 2-day UNESCO meeting for yesterday and the day before. Professor Unaisi Nabobo from 2022 to 2032 is a decade. Na kena tango makina very matanggali vosa ni vanua and vese vuruvura. Na rona bose rona singa saoti Veitalanoa cuqeni na kena mbiu endo na tuvatuva may na wasa Pacific. Era vosa tiko era na kanta mai Tonga, mai Tahiti, na vivo na soe na wasa Pasifika, arto dur talchanga lo marto na kanta to lebit babi di Vinaka ni berto Dr. Francis Koya Vakauta, katanga kina Dr. Paulinia Tamata, Cipriano Nemani, director ni Fiji Museum, to lele usar na kanta to Veiuqeti and na mbos sige utinga na roni sing South na maro sarkina ni ko direktal nga may na kanto Professor Una ng Bombamba ng bibi ni kena marroy na nonta boss iya raroni tutukuna iya natambe ka daroni na dakap na tikina do baka rende to kay iya so na tubutu sa tukun ramingo o Professor Una ng Bombamba ng bibi ni kena tikumbe kanto na Cultural Council bakatal nga kina mitikon do na roadmap endo na tuvatuva me pakumuri me pakatun chuko Professor Una me kuning galiam bakitini se turono do lutor sang vulka rua to sa bire ki chuko na to ka na lo malitina mbake ando na tuvatuva na ko nituko me Professor Una me mbakingo me do sarangan Veitalanoa rusi tol singa me biura so tuvatuva ni berli tekebu na runo do sang vulka rua ka rakatanga kina bolei kenda na bakarong tikmeniko menda may tomana vata nila ko lakungo na kena bimbi ni nonda tako makana nonda vosa me bakatu kunchungo Professor Una ni yalinga na vosa amareva keda na kwake mangima ko enai ndabi bakal nganga tekichuko iya en ngal ni kuwa en bimbi ni nonda ve solivakasam menda nakaka vata usalo masoli tu maramanita Professor Una ne una durian na bibi sakingo pagkatalaki na labor to menambukin-bukin sa martong bolet tu na wakalibulabo kirtalangan na sema cuqeni and bolei ni non vatavata. Thank you so much Professor Una for your words of wisdom. We are all blessed. Yes, I don't know how to conclude this very inspiring Talanoa session. So for the many of you who have joined us from different parts of the world, those of you from Fiji, Vinaka Bakalevsara for joining me and Professor Una Nambombamba for this Talanoa session, a session that is meant for inspiration, a story that is meant for to encourage everyone who's listening in, both young and old, both Itoke and non-Itoke. So that is why with our Talanoa today, we are using both of the languages. So we are very bilingual today, and or even trilingual if we're using the Bungalei dialect as well for Professor Una. So on behalf of all of us listening in today, Professor Una, we just want to extend our deep appreciation. Baka nako baka malmalaka sara bi kemuni ena nomuni Suleman na nomuni ngone mo may biwase ena signi ko ini sibranga ni may vava na nondaro Veitalanoa suletale ni bi kemuni ketiko tale sotal naka oni binakato muni wasea se muni baka malmalaka berto e vanua sa kenangonangoy.
We have been Vinaka Sarvagalevu, we came Keda, Nina, Rontal Timbangamay, now a kango, my lo, my viti, Vinaka Vagalevu, Doka and Avenongu Bola, ni Milo, my viti, Vuli the Virtuna Kango, Milo, my viti, ni Sonangana, and Dondonu, we saw Keda, Mendana migrate, Nave Savura. That is something strong among my father's people, that you can get qualified and live like Serevi did, because Serevi is a first cousin. So that's what I learned from my father's people, that you can do so well and excel and also market yourself. And from my father's people, I find a lot of migration among them. And they've done so well, and they enrich those of us back here. So I would like to thank my mother's people for the contributions that I was asked for today, basically revolved around my upbringing in Bungalei, but I recognize as well the strength from the father's side, that is really one of migration, but excelling like Waisele Serevi did. And my other uncles, my father's generation, had left before Waisele. They've kicked the rugby ball all over the world. That's what my other side did. So in learning all about that, Vinaka nilo may viti na irai, Vinaka we kemani na turanga na marama, ni tunin chuk may na ve savurura. lebu nango na niundo kerei vango ve Dr. Vunindilo me vosa uloi masula komandeli o nuitaka ni vei kai so mai mai ndalava ni kua me ni nangai taura na kena veitikina davangani rani taura me rani de toso chiguna no da vakasa mataka bimbi na ka endondonu menda kitaka tigo kendango na ka Taukei baleta na topic ni kua na o kenda na vuli me baleti kenda mani tau bimbi toka so na vosa o kerea no na vosa tikina na nungu kato nungu basikete ni bungalei basikete o kito na ngone valu kito ndo basikete toka ni vosa tungai ni vondonu sa kerea me taundonu na ve sei viti na sei bravura ni tune in chumaikina. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. For my colleagues, thank you for honoring this space. I hope that the bits and pieces you've taken tonight, it was basically a night about Tailevu, and that is why I'm speaking about education for Tailevu. I'd like to thank you for coming to share with us. I was saying briefly that education is important. In education as well, before I finish, some people have asked me, you know, when your parents parted, what happened? You still made it. I said, this is what I say. In any child's life, there is an important one adult. You just need one adult to be the stable factor in the child's life, to care for the child and believe in the child, and give everything for the child to succeed. So yeah, parents may part because the world is as such. It happened to me. But find an adult. There should be an adult that takes over the child's welfare and safety. But that person must have the hugs and the warmth, must believe that the child can be successful. And I think in also sharing Dr. Vunindilo about education, I also said for all of us to share that we can learn from other races and other cultures in the world around us. And that is to budget for success. I tell people, I've had to sell my house. My parents and I, we went without a lot just to send a whole lot of us to school. So this is godly. We must pray and we must invest in what we think is important. And I asked also that in the digital era we are going through, that villages, for example, in Bungalei, if I can just limit myself to Bungalei or any Bukai, they must stop hanging around and doing the things we normally do. Sakuaya. We need to have computers and laptops. We need to have Wi-Fi. We need to ask Vodafone to come close to our villages. Every child must have a laptop now. That is the new normal. And maybe in the villages, mesa rota manda na soli mbeleta na valni songo na kakervaya rota sakua na chamba sakua mbeleta na vura da sala kobango na Vinakati na ngone me na mbudhini Vinaka e vakana longa uvi. May I ask to speak in Fijian? Na susungi ni ngone me vuli me avasar na vuli tordaki kwe tarungi au tiko kino Dr. Vunindilo na bongendai e vakana te uvi na vakarota ki Vinaka nangele. Wakarota ki Vinaka na itei. E senga ni kawa kinda thala ni nda ulewe Vinaka na uvi na katau dhoko en Rauluni. O sa tatau na katurea na bongi ni kua ni o mai kerei me o wasa ina vuli vatke ina wasa vakaviti sa tuvana sarani vakavinaka o nuitaka ni na yanga na Veitalanoa ki rausa mai la kawa i matamani na bongi ni kua. Sa Vinaka sarvakalevu Dr. Vunindilo. Over to you.
Vinaka makaleo ke me vavi Vinaka sarani na leo viti Keda na luwe viti satunga na veste burhura ke me mi vaka Vinaka sarani vakalevi ke ni Professor Una vakatalanga kene be no mundo turanga liuliu ni vale Dr. Tupeni Mbamba klani varong tal tunga minggu vakatalaki no mnido robo junia nitakani na leo nakana bulida non todo robo na vital no nikua na leo mekana kaya si vert kini kila membeliti no na klani ko sana gerong ata vakina Vinaka junia na varong Vikima Keda na sema tiko yani na vesi burubura to varong tungo meniso sau mai na marte levu Chone Batiwali, Vinakavali, Chone, Nando, Tutaka, na veitokoni ni Vuli, que na sema tikumani University ni Deva, vikima mina Vuli oti me lodala, Vinakavali, Chone, na vinga ravi alundina, na nomnindo, na numikema mitu na ngoni Vuli oti me lodala. Iyo, nakavinani ko vetorongan na vosa usata buto tigania, vani ni tuyani, vikim ni Professor Una ni na Vui Vinaka, na nomni tostoso, na lomni ambaki ongo, unitaka ni sanandola talanggo na rarani wango buka, anongole sarani Richards Road, mule reda na nomni buni, nomni longa ubi. Okla ni sikata sarap juga na kena itamba to toko vakauqeti da barita kaya ni na kena basa beka bakandavu you walking the talk. Na namun ni barita katiko na vikaya wakatala kena vimpas kete ni bungalei tu na namun ni vale isa rong Vinaka Dina rere Vinaka erto vimbi na marama ni bungalei na buku ni manggosi na to taka ni linga na vono bungalei. Sa bakamat sar cuqeni bakale vikim ni Professor Una vikim me Keda na bakarong tumai na kavini kuwa da bakavini Vinaka Professor Una na nono sulit mi nono ngoni weekend Vinaka bakalevu na bula mengo na nagai ngante tiko i loma viti kito nagai bakam bula talean ito sana ngoli loma viti maramanita. Iya. Iya.
Bye everyone. Yeah,
Isa
mode Vinaka. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Vinaka, thank you very much, Dr. Vunindilo and Professor Una.
Vinaka, iya, ni mau titoka, Vinaka Sasaga.
Vinaka Professor, Dr.
Vinaka Muschale. Vinaka
Madam, thank you.
Vinaka. Bye, Dr. Vunindilo.
Vinaka.
Vinaka, Madam.
You're welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Nakavalevu. Nakabuluna, nakaneta. Nakapero.
Nakatarisi,
Nakamisili. Nice to see you. Nakavalevu.
Nice to see you too. Naka,
all the best. So, Nakavalevu FNU for supporting Professor Una. Really nice to see the whole support of the team. Nakavalevu. So, Nakavalevu Nisilandi, thank you so much for logging in and listening. Nakavalevu kelera bokini namburisi, mwadi tau. Naka Katerina Ruru, Nakavalevu Madam. Naka kai Teni Seru, Nakavalevu kai na veitokoni mai. Naka Merseni Batu, Naka Ngilandi, Tubula Melambasa, Karnia, Makalesin Riu, Naka na sema mai ni kuwa. Nakavalevu sana sema mai. Salambanube, Amelia Danba, Nakavalevu. Nakamiva Hongo, Lasalini Batikota. Kelar Saleleo, do Bulmi Wellington. Nak na sema mai. Melea Mbale. Nakanao mi tombao no bulu mengilandi. Sa naka sara bikim ni na sema mai na Veitalanoa Vinaka ni kua. To babi ni Vinaka sar cuqeni bikim ni to sara en nomni may rongoda na ni Veitalanoa kay Professor Unaisi Nabobo Vinaka bali sara nomni sema mai me bakau ni relati ko sobe ka bikim ni ndai durum beka mai muri sapa madal takoti o kunuai o Professor Unaisi Nabobo balati ni relebu tiko na pulangi era nona liuliu elewe rangone Vuli Kei bibi se cuqeni kina ni bibi se cukup babalangi lanti tiko na posa vakauqeti balata ni era vimali tiko duru vimali tiko ira na bulangi na kabinani ko sigini ko klai dombe ka be duru baka mai na nero bibi saki baka babalangi o pasi mate kere moni kere bibi sotiani pasti mati se warong tu ngamengo iya na nero tu babaka biwakani mikrobi besek nga baka vidia ni retiko main na leoni bulanya retiko ngo relebura sema tiko mi balangi ra nero bikilai era durtal tu ngamengo na be university lelebu sotel ngara tiko na FNU era sema tiko mai ko ngone kine da kina bibisaki ena rua na bosa ker nga mentare na sana rua dotal ngaya ni simber ni da tepu taka ndonaka keda ni Taukei da bakasa mamanda bakasa metau chunanda ngaboka ni ber ni da bola se tukunu tu ndonaka me ka kuni sambalietu na nonda Veitalanoa kana Veitalanoa ni rara mongo samba ke ronondo rusulu kandongo ker bikim ni na do sema tik mena nong programu menda reiti ko na rei rambo lebu me kuni bobondea na veka da wasia balati ni bobondea na ka bola berarti ketel tunga ni bobondea tiko na kai tiko ike wasot sana pos ko kombe kai ni weekenda me visau na nonda rai menda viva ko ngeti me kona vin resombu menda kunanda na numikenda nga menda rambai lebu tiko na nonda rai ni lebu tal tunga na bulangi tiko tal nga en na nonda Veitalanoa na sigo binaka ni ko binaka baka lebu na sema tiko mai baka mbulu tukan bikim ni sara na sema tiko mai na nonda Veitalanoa ni takini da sinai na nonda noke noke ni Veitalanoa lebu na kai titombu enda marutaka do mantanga kana na baka iyo na maramongo ni maramo soso lebu na kai na kabatu na nona tambani da ngai sulia na nona ngona me mai viu se kini bikenda ni ko kona kina au ni taka ni na veitokoni taki na nodai tovo ni biba krok taki dona kambimbia au saba kumaden bikim ni to sara Vinaka bakalew sara na nomoni lomo soli muni ngoli mai meta me bakrorongo and na sotel tukani sigini mataka na tola kaloko na kabini mataka na ngande sarti ko weni buka na koro weilevu mai weni buka and na Veitalanoa tiko kini ke dona marama gas ni buli bakadengu and na ngai sotobata ena sigini mataka usalo lomo sara ni bakalew bikim ni Vinaka bakalew sara na sema mai ni mode manta